The views, ideas, and content of WellSeekers and their guests are their own opinions, and you should always seek additional professional help around any of the issues discussed here on WellSeekers.
Hello, welcome to WellSeekers. I'm Lucia, and I am so excited to be wrapping up our series on reducing anxiety in 2020, especially during the holiday season. I'm excited for two reasons. One, I'm really excited about the show and talking about movement because it's been really important in my own life. I see it in the lives of individuals who do struggle with depression and anxiety and how much it does help. So I'm excited to offer some simple ways to get there for yourself and your families and the people that you love. But I'm also excited because the last show in the series means this is the last show of 2020. So 2020 is almost behind us, which if you're anything like me, you probably could not be more excited about having a year behind you. I remember at the start of this year thinking 2020 was going to be my year. And I know a lot of people, a lot of my friends said 2020 was going to be their year where they were going to work on all these different aspects of their life. And it's almost been the great pause. I feel like this has been a year of pause, a year of reflection, a year of looking at the people and the places and the things around you and saying, do I really want to be here? Right? And maybe you've started to ask yourself some of those questions. We're going to be tackling some of those in 2021 as we come back with brand new shows in the new year. Or maybe you've just been so anxious or experiencing depression. If that's you, you are absolutely not alone. We've talked about it at the beginning of our series, but there's been reported an estimated up to 400% increase in anxiety and depressive symptoms since March, since we've started our quarantines, our lack of connection, and all the different things that came with COVID. So as we head into really, for some people, the holidays are here. For others, Christmas is next week. I know I'm going to be celebrating Christmas, but it's going to be really different this year, right? Because there's not as much connection. People aren't seeing their families. I know in Thanksgiving, I didn't see my family, and I really wanted to see my family of origin, but it just wasn't possible at the time with so many households and varied circumstances. So you may be experiencing a lack of connection, right? And what I've seen in people and even personally is that it's really easy when you lose a lack of connection with other people to lose a lack of connection with yourself, right? And so we hoped and hope through this series, and even though we've said it's reducing anxiety in 2020, we hope that you take some of these tools with you. And if this is your first show that you're listening to in the series, I really encourage you to go back because there's so much powerful information and so many powerful conversations about what anxiety is and what are some simple ways to work through it in your life. A truly impactful story from the owner of something called Float 41 in West Hartford, Connecticut, where she shared her own personal story and struggles and how floating really changed that for her. So there's some of the more classic tools we've talked about in episode 1 and 2 to things that you may not have tried, like floating in episode 3. And of course, Swami and I had that really impactful conversation on meditation and how to incorporate it into your life in our last episode. So I feel like a great place to end because not only is it something I believe in clinically, but it's also something I've used personally, is the power of movement to help overcome anxiety and depression. Joining us is going to be one of the owners of CrossFit Override in Thomaston, Connecticut. His name is Marshal, and we're gonna have to have him help us out with the pronunciation. I was gonna say Szyndlar, Marshal Szyndlar. He is the owner of CrossFit Override. So Marshal will be joining us. We're going to be talking about some simple and real ways that you can actually use and incorporate movement into your day-to-day life, not only during the holiday season and during the winter, but specifically a winter of COVID, right? Because last year, quarantine started in mid-March, so there were still some sunny days, weather was getting warmer. Right now, we're sort of heading into, people are calling this the dark winter, right? So how can we, during these darker times and during these colder times, if you're on the, East Coast or even other various, essentially, if you're not in any sort of warm area in the United States or just internationally, how can we take some really simple methods and ways and use those through the winter? I also should say we are absolutely not just talking to the US, even though that's where I'm based. I want to give a special shout out to everyone listening right now in Switzerland. We were one of the top ranked podcasts there a couple 2 weeks ago now. So thank you to anybody who's listening right now in Switzerland. We really appreciate you being on this journey with us as we seek and find the best ways to incorporate health into our everyday lives. If you are listening for the first time, you know I'm a research geek. And as we head into 2021, we are going to be changing and shifting our show just a little. So I want you to make sure you hang with us to see those changes, the really exciting ones. And if you also are a fan of the show, you know that I usually talk a lot about research. And when it comes to exercise, we have dove into a lot of research studies. So I hope that you can look back at some of our other shows on exercise. And I want to make sure that we give Marshall a lot of time to talk about, a lot of space to talk about COVID specifically, since movement is so key. But I'll just say this. So many research studies that we have looked into, and these are really, really verified research study by the NCBI, other organizations that have done and looked into multiple and varying age groups, different analytic efforts. And there is no doubt all of the data points to a risk for depression. Specific exercises, depending on what you're doing, can help with anxiety. There's also reduced risk in things like dementia and Alzheimer's. And of course, you know, it helps if you end up moving. It's going to help your cardiovascular health and other areas like that. So I think it's fair to say that physical activity or some form of movement, and we're about to get into that discussion of what you can do when all you want to do, if you're like me some days, is just stay in your warm bed when you don't have to actually leave much of an area. It's a major health indicator for prevention and for treatment. Many, many varied health conditions, mental health, there is a proven correlation between movement and having increased subjective well-being. So helping with anxiety, helping with depression, and helping with overall mood. So in our current circumstances, as we head into winter, hope the lighter days are coming, but they're pretty short right now. And they are going to get colder in some areas. So as we head into these areas, what can we really do? If you are just sitting at home, you don't have a tremendous amount of funds, and you want to be a happy and healthier person, what can you do? That's what this show is here for. It's to take complex information or some of the best strategies out there and bring them to you and help them be something that you can incorporate into your everyday life. So we are so excited to have Marshall on. He's going to be joining us in just a minute to have this conversation and help you find some real and simple ways to love yourself and your body and your mood a whole lot more well during COVID and this holiday season. So we'll be right back on WellSeekers. After a long day, taking time to love yourself and your friends and your family more well can be a challenge. We're so burnt out and exhausted and stressed from working so hard during the day, we forget to love the people and the places and the things that are important to us. Well, Lucia at Night is here to help. We're going to be a retreat and a treat for your day. A place to laugh, to connect, and to learn to love yourself and others more well. We're going to talk about relationships, ways to sleep better. We'll have expert guests, personal stories, maybe even a musical guest or two. We'll share behind the scenes into my own life as well, my friends, my family, and of course, my relationships. So close the door on your day and light up your night with Lucia at Night. Also, make sure to check out more at WellSeekers.com for simple and real-life ways to bring wellness home. I'll see you tonight on Lucia at Night.
You're listening to WellSeekers, a show where the journey is just as important as the destination.
Welcome back to WellSeekers, and I'm so honored to have our guest on. He is one of the co-owners of CrossFit Override in Thomaston, Connecticut. Did I say that right?
That is right. Good.
Okay. I've actually been to your gym once, but before we get to that story, Marshall, how do you say your last name? I know you want me to take a guess.
I do. I almost want to have a stab at it for it, but
let me
it is Szyndlar. Sorry, I jumped the gun on you.
I was going to say the same thing.
Perfect. Yeah, there we go. Perfect.
I wasn't.
Szyndlar.
I was going to say Oh, no, I would have said Szyndlar. Yeah, Szyndlar.
Yeah, Szyndlar. Everyone gets thrown off a little bit, especially by the SZ, but yeah, Szyndlar.
What is the background culturally on that?
Polish, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Polish,
like
Szyndlar. Yeah, it's a name that it's technically Schindler, and the way that they say it in Poland, but
I really like it. So I have been to your gym ages ago. It was probably it was great. It was such a great workout. I'd love to hear though, how did you get into being one of the owners of this CrossFit gym and getting into CrossFit in general?
I'm a very contrarian thinker. I dropped out of college in my senior year. I had about 8 credits left. It was something I joke. I dropped out of school to pursue a higher education. It was something where, I fell in love with the community of CrossFit. And then, I saw how it was affecting my life and knew where I was in school and what I was doing in school just wasn't where my heart was or where my passion was. And I just didn't want to spend any more time doing what didn't kind of fulfill me. But at the same time, college for me was kind of a cancerous environment. And I wasn't able to kind of have the self-discipline or commitment that others did, where for me, I tend to fall into some bad habits. And, that's where probably I was at one of my lowest points. And just that environment and the friend circle and the group that I was involved with was a totally different world from when I went into a CrossFit box, and the people that were around there and the culture and the environment. So, I had this kind of window of clarity, and then boom, I knew for me it was a dramatic change. I shook it up, dropped out of school, started immersing myself into the culture more, and then I had the plan and vision to open up a gym. And then, within 2 years of that, we opened up CrossFit Override. Yeah, so me getting into CrossFit, I was very fortunate. College career was something where I went on to play baseball in college, and I actually had a couple injuries that set me back. And from there, I actually took on the coaching role, and I started coaching youth athletes, specifically in baseball.
Where'd you go, Marshall?
So I was at Western Connecticut State.
Oh, okay. I rode D1.
Oh, wonderful. Where'd you play? Or where'd you row?
I rode at the University of New Hampshire, and it was really competitive when I rode.
Nice.
But now because of Title IX, I think they actually got reduced, which is...
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they got rid of a male sport, so they had to get rid of a female sport, which that's a whole other conversation.
Oh, no. They cut rowing out, huh? Jeez.
Yeah. But we were really good. But anyway, baseball that's competitive. And that's tough.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
I was hoping, I definitely was, Western wasn't my first choice. Honestly, I had a couple of schools lined up that I was hoping to go. And for me, sports was kind of always the goal. But, at a lot of the schools I was looking at, my parents were prioritizing for me, the academics were priorities. And, honestly, at the time, my academics suffered mainly because of my social life and my own self. So, not realizing the value of what it would have been even for my sports career to take my academics more seriously, I think it kind of didn't allow me the access that I was hoping for in school. And, but I did like Western, and the team had some great coaches, some great buddies that played there. And, for me, it was something where I needed sports in my life for sure, the structure and what it brought to me. So that kind of carried into coaching, and I think for about a year and a half, 2 years, I worked at Frozen Ropes, and that was an extension for my coaching because I had volunteered in town with our park and rec department and Babe Ruth and Little League, things like that. And, I just kind of loved that, environment of team sports. And, every time I aged out, once my 8th grade league ended and I got into high school, I started coaching the 8th graders again. And then once I got out of high school and got into college, I started coaching the high schoolers again. And so it was always fun. It was a fun transition for me to, stay involved and be connected to what I like to do and what, we had people in town or friends.
Sports to me is still such an important part of my life, even just exercising and moving every day, and which ties into what we're talking about today and why you're here. 2020 has been really just an incredible year in so many ways and not positive ways. It's something that I think we're not going to see 100 more years, right? A pandemic, election, friction nationally with tensions for various reasons, right? And people just having heightened anxiety, the levels of suicide and depression just rising astronomically. I'm a mental health professional. I consider myself an athlete. But one of the things I've learned through my studies is how important physical health and mental health, how they go together, right? So having some sort of exercise routine, exercise built into your day is imperative for having positive mental health, especially around anxiety right now. There was a study I was reading, Marshall, and I don't know if you know this, because CrossFit's, would you say it's HIIT training?
So that would be an easy way to put it, kind of in a box. But yeah, I would say for a large portion, for people who don't know, HIIT is high intensity interval training, and we use a format like that most days. But the big thing to us is we talk about constantly varied high intensity functional movements, and so the big thing, in one or the earlier piece of that constant variance is, for example, today in our gym, what we have a little bit of a longer workout, about 30 minutes continuous effort, sustained. And then yesterday, another example, maybe under 5 minutes. So the hard part, or one of the things, is saying what CrossFit is, because truly one of the best parts about it is that, we try and do a combination of as many different things as possible. So whether it's a long, steady row, a 5K row, go on, get after it, or, 10-second sprint on the rower, it really kind of depends on the programming, the training, and where we are throughout the season, and kind of the general approach to us is looking at the body and the athlete as a whole, and we believe that, if you're only strong, you're going to have, some shortcomings or some deficiencies when it comes to endurance or flexibility or a number of different elements of fitness. And if you're only enduring, maybe you lack the strength, the power, the speed. So to us, it's trying to take a whole holistic approach at looking at the body.
So very similar. And what I was going to say was there was actually a study focusing on more HIIT training and how it actually evidence-based reduces anxiety and depression in people. So it sounds like when you say holistically, I know you're talking about, well, why don't you tell me, when you say holistically, what are you talking about?
So generally when I say holistically, I mean as a whole, and the big thing that we talk about from a fitness perspective is there's 10 physical attributes or elements that really kind of complete fitness. And so we define fitness as work capacity across broad time and modal domain. And really that's just a big word or statement to say anything, literally, whether it's you getting up and out of bed in the morning and walking down to your mailbox and back, like I can track that with a measuring tape, with a stopwatch, with a scale. You can figure out the work capacity that takes. And then the same thing if we have you do Murph, which is a 1 mile run, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 air squats, another mile run with a weighted vest. You can measure work capacity. So for us, this is a point of what we try and look at is what is your work capacity? And this is something, whether it's a max bench press, max 5K row, or that light jog that you're going for with your parents or your dog, we can plot it, we can measure it.
Do you feel like CrossFit is for everyone? What if there's someone listening right now that feels like there's no way I'm running a mile with a weighted vest?
Yeah, and I get it, especially where I first started, would have definitely been something I'm like, no way. But yes, absolutely. I think, to me, it's something that's completely scalable. This is where every gym is different, to understand and be realistic in the sense that there are certain cultures and certain gyms that I've been in where I'm like, man, this is kind of not my vibe, or, it's maybe not the fit that I would want to portray. But we always say that it is broad, general, and inclusive, meaning it is for everybody, whether it's your grandmother or, a young athlete trying to play in college. My very, very first CrossFit client was my grandmother. She had just finished. Oh, I love it. It was something that was an awesome experience, for me for a magnitude of reasons. But, she was about 74 years old at the time. She had just fallen. She had a number of different issues that had happened, but she had broken her hip, had some shoulder restrictions, and then some pre-existing conditions. But, I have some videos. I'd love to send them over to you, but she had trouble getting in and out of a chair. She moved in with us at home because she really lost her independence to be able to get herself up, do the basic daily tasks. So she had to come in, move in, and this is about when I dropped out of school. And so it was perfect. I was home, she was home, and she was my perfect first client. It was incredible to see her progress, in what I would say was a short amount of time, a couple of months, where, she was getting up and out of a chair, helping out with making her own breakfast and, going up and down, small sets of steps. And we were going for a walk daily that, it's something to me where no matter how old you are or what obstacle you have to overcome, that, just moving the body, improving what you're putting in your body, what you're listening to, what you're reading, what you're watching, again, an all encompassing aspect of your mindset and your physiology, there's never too late, really. I don't care what limitations or age, it's something now that will work with anybody if they're willing to work with us. And I've never not seen exercise, improve, you name it, bone density, body fat percentage, triglyceride count, blood pressure, it's now, I think, very obvious that you can find evidence to support any study of exercise, any discipline, that's going to benefit your body, your mind. Because I think that there's more of a connection than we realize. I think there are really two things that are probably one, it's just kind of hard for most people to articulate that connection.
Yeah. I mean, I've said this for a really long time. I don't know when we started saying mind body. It's like saying knee body. Your mind is in your body.
I love it.
It's part of your body. And there's so much science now, so much data. I'm a big believer in something called psychoneuroimmunology, which is the mind-gut connection and how there's more neurons in your gut than any part of your body. So if you don't have a healthy gut, it's communicating poorly to your brain, right? So it's really, your brain is a body part. So it's like just body. Right? Like this is our body, and let's see how the brain can work with other parts of your body. Right. And so to me, it is holistic in that way. Going back to your grandmother, that is such an amazing story. I would love those videos. If you're willing to share, we'll absolutely post them. But I had knee surgery, and I remember my ortho saying, you can do this, but I wouldn't go to CrossFit. So it sounds like you're saying it doesn't actually matter where you're at. You can meet your clients there.
Yeah. And so the hard part to me, and I mean, so we specifically deal with a lot of, right now, I probably have 4 or 5 clients that we're kind of in the rehab process. And I think the hard part, again, is kind of just generalizing. If we're just saying CrossFit, we're saying a lot of things without really saying anything, and I think the hard part to me is defining it. What does that mean? Does that mean you should hop into a class and start doing thrusters and clean and jerks? No. If you're somebody who's coming off a knee surgery, there's probably really specific exercises, movements, or intensities that you should be following that are more specific to you. So that way you can get your knee back to proper health. And, really good rehab is good training. We use the same principles to allow your body to grow and adapt. And I think that's something that can be, again, generalized. It's just easy. It's easy for that conversation. I think sometimes a lot of doctors, without knowing if there's any good CrossFits in the area, they'd rather just say, hey, avoid it completely. And there's maybe some good in that, but there's probably some harm in it too, especially if there is a good CrossFit in the area that can help. And, somebody like us that I believe we can generally improve. We have the resources, the experience, and, the knowledge to help people through some of those processes. But we also have the ability to say, hey, I don't know. This is something that I'm not sure I'm going to be able to help you with. And we have guys like Mark Fada, who's a physical therapist out of Waterbury, that helps us and we refer to. And, I have good buddies that, are in practices or disciplines that maybe extend our scope and allow us to be able to serve our community better.
I love that.
In that sense.
Yeah, it sounds like not every gym is the same, and the word CrossFit isn't necessarily, there's obviously some universal aspects, but check out the gym and your opportunities before you completely count it out.
Yeah, exactly. Just, don't judge the book by its cover kind of thing,
So, Marshall, we've been talking in this series about how in 2020, like I said, in particular, there's an increase in anxiety, and really trying to give people tools from that holistic perspective and how physical movement can help with anxiety. Have you experienced any personal stories, maybe your own or even people in your gym, talk about how leaving the gym had a huge impact on their mental health, overall health, and how have you made it comfortable? Sort of a 2-part question for people to come back in light of COVID and restrictions.
So it's funny. I was kind of joking, but I wish, we could have our whole, community on here. And I think this is something. So, especially during the shutdown, we launched something what we called Corona Fit. But it was basically our plan for our community to be able to stay moving, stay active, stay fit and healthy. And it was something that was very multi-layered plan. At the basics of it, of what we do is human movement, moving the body. And I think it's something where, that is something that is necessary. It's simple. Stop moving and see what happens. Your body will start to let you know that it's meant to move. And so much of what we do here is just teach our clients in our community to listen to their body. I say our body's an incredibly intelligent organism. It's something that's truly, truly brilliant. And we tend to just let our own biases or our own kind of ambitions, wants get in the way of it. And it's something now that with our program, we knew was going to be important with the high stress, high anxiety of not knowing what's going to happen with the virus, or the originals were going way back where it's like, man, this thing could be, some people were thinking a world, something that would kill us all. And, it was a very fearful time for people. So we knew we had to be certain and helping people with what they did know, which was train hard, eat clean, stick to things that are going to keep you in a good state. As we find out more, we're in this together. So we built a program, daily workouts for everyone to do. But I think the community at large and what we were doing, we were posting weekly cooking classes where we would run an hour-long class to kind of just teach a different recipe and have some fun in the kitchen. We were doing trivia night. But the big one was each week, each athlete was assigned a coach. And you spend about 20, 30 minutes just checking in. Listen how things are going, talking about Tiger King, because I know that was big at the time, and talking about, what's going on.
Tiger King.
Yeah, oh yeah. Especially after Halloween, that was like the number one costume this year.
Yeah, yep. No, amazing holistic approach. I want to join your gym.
Anytime, Lucia. I can't believe I wasn't here when you already came down.
Yeah, I think it was, how long have you been there? I want to make sure it's the same gym.
We've been here for 4 years now. Actually, we celebrated our 4-year birthday on October 31st.
Okay, so it may have not been your gym.
There is another gym in Thomaston, and then there are a number of CrossFits, around the area. So
yeah, I'm sure it was in Thomaston, but it may have been another gym. So I will come down and check it out. But also, do you still do, for those that are listening, do you still do your online program? And if so, where can people find out about it?
Yeah, so we launched that actually shortly after Corona Fit. It is on our website, www.crossfitoverride.com. And then we have under programs, just a section, it says new online training. So the way we kind of start everybody with that, the goal was to make it for somebody with, little to no experience and little to no equipment. Mm-hmm. So it's set up to have, if you have absolutely no equipment, just you and your body weight at home. And then it's set up to have, if you have one dumbbell or one kettlebell, there's another program that additionally that's on top of it. But we focus a lot of things around goal setting and mindset when we first start working with most of our clients. So this program is really built on every day there's something to do. It can be as little or as much as you would like to kind of participate in for the program. And then there's a once a week 30-minute check-in with your coach. And we find that accountability is one of the biggest pieces to the online program, the biggest value. Because there's a million opportunities to kind of take advantage on our daily activity. But I think sometimes learning what we're doing, understanding the concepts of what we're doing, and how to apply them is a big part of it. And that's where the coaching aspect comes in. So we really try and help with that learning curve. And, from a sense of getting things started, there's usually a lot of questions. There's a lot of questions on even just what is the thruster and what should I eat after I work out and how many hours of sleep would be ideal. And so, to me, there's a lot of things that we try and help along the way. And we take, like I said, a kind of a larger approach where it's not just simple doing burpees and bench press. It's a deeper approach that we take, especially with those 30-minute sessions. It allows us a lot of time to build that connection with the client.
As we head towards winter, Marshal, and potential rises in COVID, I mean, it is rising, but maybe even more potential rises in COVID. If people are looking for ways to move and maybe they are still a little intimidated by CrossFit, do you have any general suggestions for people of how they can, if they do want to stay home, just get more movement, more physical activity into their day?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, the online program seems perfect to me. It's a one-on-one approach, but there are a lot of services like this Pelotons out there. I think there's so many different home resources. My twin brother and his wife are like the ultimate spokesmen for Peloton, but it's an online spin cycling class, and they offer a number of different virtual things as well. But I am a big fan of the Coach. Brute Strength is a program that I typically recommend, and then I have a couple of friends that Yankee Fitness Co. in Farmington, which they were a pre-CrossFit previously before, and now they've kind of transitioned their model to a little bit more of an individual model, things that work well at home. It's something that, again, the whole idea is to kind of break down that barrier of maybe somebody who's a little intimidated to get started. And then if somebody wants to take on the ultimate battle of getting themselves moving, really simple. There's nothing wrong with just getting up, going for a 10-minute walk after you eat. Starting to try and take your time. And, a big thing to me and what I always ask of everybody is, just listen to your body. And I know that's kind of the saying that, can kind of be muddied up or not fully understanding what it is. But, I always say one of the positions, the only bad position is the one you're in too long. And, if your back's starting to get up and stretch, do some yoga, Google it. On YouTube, there's a million, 10-minute yogas, 20-minute yogas. There's so many good resources out on the internet now that are free, good, awesome resources that are free for you to just take advantage of and build that structure for yourself to, plan. Maybe it's a little walk or following some of these online programs and just getting the ball rolling.
All great advice. I think also get creative is something I would say, right? Because when you said Peloton, I have a Le Monde, which is similar to a Peloton, but I love the Peloton app, and it's like $12.99 a month. So even if you don't have a Peloton, you can download that app, right? And do Peloton workouts on your spin bike. So don't count yourself out of activities just because you don't have all the equipment is something that I've done before to myself that I feel like sometimes we limit ourselves before we even get started. So try to get creative with what you have and the resources you have.
Oh, absolutely. We, in our online program, when we did Corona Fit, we had, create a gratitude jar where you're making a jar, coloring it, and then writing in something you're grateful for every day. And then we had a mini kind of like competition to draw what is health, in a visual perspective. What does that look like? We had a poem one week. And so, there's a million, I think, again, the big thing with a lot of people is that physically, writing is a skill set. There's drawing is a skill set. These are things that are, using your body. We think about them differently, but, those things might start the process of you going to a yoga class or getting into a CrossFit gym. And, I think that, like you hit the nail on the head to me, getting the creative process started in your brain is just as well as likely to get you moving towards moving your body. And I think that that's something to me that those things are very connected. So the more you stimulate that creative process, and maybe it's even through writing, I think for sure you're going to be more likely to snowball into some physical activity and moving your body and getting things rolling.
Absolutely. Marshall, just a couple more questions before we let you go. So the holidays are coming up, right? Which brings extra anxiety and stress. Usually people stop working out because they have so much going on in their schedule. I always love to ask, because every fitness expert has a different take. Around the holidays, what do you suggest as a fitness routine if you don't have the time, or just in general around fitness in the holidays?
Yeah. So one, I think it's start with, commit to something. This is where, to me, just as simple as going for a walk. I think the holidays, are such a fun time because we get some more time with the family. So I'll even plan out some workouts for me and my family to do together. There's a workout we actually do every year. So if somebody listen and look up Chief, we post it, but it's a workout. It's a fun one you can do at home. It's a body weight workout. It's 5 rounds, 3 minutes. You continue through 3 broad jumps. So you just jump forward and back, and then you do 5 push-ups, 7 air squats. You repeat that for 3 minutes with 1 minute rest.
I love that.
After those 3 minutes for 5 rounds, it's something I do with my brothers. It's a lot of fun.
Who wins? Is there a winner and loser? Because I like competition.
Yes, always. Especially with my family. I'm one of 5 boys, so there was always the dinner table, working out, at the end of the game, no matter what.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, it was fun. So awesome stuff there. But yeah, getting started, getting moving. I think one of the big things with the holidays is that, to me, nutrition is probably one of the bigger factors then. And, I tell everybody, Don't let 3 or 4 days, stop you from eating clean the rest of the days, and, get yourself going. And if you ever need a resource, reach out to us. We'd be happy to help you throughout the holidays. I think that's one of the bigger things we do well. We have a little booklet, and I'll get that for you, Lucia, but we have a holidays hacks, and it's just some small tips on how to win the holidays or get through the holidays, and either achieving your fitness goals or maintaining your fitness goals. So
that would be amazing. I know that everyone would love to see that. Thanks, Marshall.
Of course.
How have you seen in your own life, have you had anxiety and been anxious through COVID? Or have you been able?
Of course.
You have. Okay. How have you managed it being in the health field?
Yeah, so less through COVID. I think now, when I was younger, I would say very anxious through college and high school. I think that I struggled more then, and a big part of what I realized was, one, I kind of didn't really think big picture. I really think one advantage, or one thing I would think to the younger population out there would say, hey, take a deep breath. It might feel like graduation, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your job, your bills, all these things are so, important and such a big burden. But at the same time, in the big picture of things, they're not as stressful. And I think a lot of times we end up making, these things bigger than they are. So, taking a deep breath and being able to realize, sometimes the real value in life, and the things that really matter most sometimes are what, I always say one of the biggest values is not what you have, but what you can do without. And so, one of those things to me, and what I started to realize was where my values lied and what I, really cared about. And this was something that now I see a value in, and how it helps me with my anxiety is being able to kind of take that step back and take a deep breath and look at what's in my control and what's out of my control. But then also take it and say, hey, in 100 years from now, would this really matter? In 10 years from now, would this really matter? And I think that kind of goes twofold, where one, you might realize no, but at the same time, if you do that, now you won't do anything. So to me, I start to realize what I was doing and what I wasn't doing. And my lack of preparation is what caused me so much anxiety. I waited to the last minute to do my work. I waited to the last minute to address what I had to do at school, and I think this was something now that I realized was I was trying to avoid the burden. So I love the idea of taking on stress because I know the stress is going to make me better. The bigger the obstacle, the bigger the opportunity in a lot of ways. And that has been kind of our message to the gym is, don't avoid stress. I think one of the biggest things that a lot of people, they try and hide away from it. But I mean, I'm sure you know this, and, in a clinical setting, anytime someone's dealing with anxiety, the goal is to clearly detail what you're anxious about, what you're afraid of. And, you decompose that down into a small little bits. And, and then the goal is to try and expose you into those bits. And, I think one of the things that's amazing is that, it's not that you become less anxious about those things. Truly, you become more brave, and you become more courageous and more willing. And those are kind of two different things. They're not the same. And that's one thing in the gym that, we prove to people every day where they come in, I'll never be able to climb that rope or even walk through the door. I'm never going to be able to lose this weight. And, then we break these things down into smaller, easy objectives to show people how to tackle them. And then they prove to themselves, they walk through the fire themselves to go through it and show themselves that they can do it. And they become more brave, more courageous. And, so it's funny, but those things physically connect mentally, like we said, how, they are directly connected.
Yeah. No, absolutely. One thought at a time, I always say. And it sounds like you're saying one task at a time, one climb at a time, one thing at a time, and you'll get there and you'll build to where you want to be.
Absolutely.
Marshal Szyndlar.
Perfect, Lucia. I love
it. So nice to have you on. And I'd love to have you back. We didn't have time today, but to talk about some of the trends you see coming for 2021 and in just in the fitness industry in general. I feel like it's always changing. So just an invitation to come back and talk about that on another show.
Oh, anytime. Absolutely. I love it. Anytime we're talking health, fitness, anything involved, I love it. The trends, we can get into it, Lucia. I appreciate you having me on here. I really, really appreciate the message. I think now, more than ever, just anyone who's listening, awesome. I've been checking out your stuff. It's fantastic
Oh,
because I think one of the big things everyone can do is think about not just what their bodies are doing, but what they're ingesting, what they're listening to, what they're exposing themselves to. And you can't beat the quality that you're delivering to everybody. And, it's such an awesome message you have and an amazing podcast. So keep doing the good work, Lucia. I love it. I'd be happy to be back anytime.
Thanks, Marshall. I appreciate that. That's so kind.
Of course.
And for the people that want to find you, just give us all of your social, any way to reach you.
Yeah, at CrossFitOverride.com, at CrossFit Override on Instagram and Facebook. Generally my partners and I are pretty diligent about getting on there and interacting with anyone who needs help, and all that stuff comes direct. We pride ourselves on our response time. We know that's a big thing is getting to people now in the world. It's got to be quick. But I always advise, check it out. Check out our Instagram, check out our Facebook. Most of our stuff is geared towards our community, but we're creating more and more resources for the community that's outside of our actual physical gym. And I think this year specifically, we'll have a lot more for everybody. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll be right back on WellSeekers.
Today's lifestyle demands the best in wireless, and with Pulse Cellular, you have the best options available. Switch to Pulse Cellular for unlimited talk, text, and high-speed data, coast to coast with no contracts, no credit checks, and no overage fees. One line for $65 or 4 lines for just $45 each, including hotspot, Wi-Fi calling, and 50 gigs per line. And for all you travelers, we got you covered in Canada and Mexico. Plus, text and data in over 210 countries worldwide, all with the best phones or bring your own. That's pretty awesome. Get the best user experience on mobile at pulsecellular.com.
Thanks for being part of the Seekerhood. We couldn't do this without you. Now, back to the show.
Thanks so much again to Marshall for joining us. If you do want to find out more about CrossFit Override, their online program, or his holiday hacks, we have links. We have links everywhere. Links for everyone. You get a link. You get a link. Ugh, if you ever watched Oprah, just trying to mimic her there. But so there's links below this page that you can link to Marshall, and you can check out the holiday hacks that he was talking about as well. Before I let you go, I do want to say that in 2021, we are going to be coming back with new and improved WellSeekers show. And if you know me, you also know that I have an extreme passion and love for relationships. I believe that we are made to be in relationship, and that's romantic, but that's also relationship with self, relationship with other people, and then of course, romantic relationships. So we do have a sister show called Lucia at Night, dedicated exclusively to talk about relationships and loving yourself and others more well. WellSeekers, of course, takes on more of those pressing mental, emotional health issues from a holistic point of view. But if you're all about love, like I am, I lead with love in everything I do. If you ask people to describe me, in fact, I did something for a course once where people had to come up with the words that described people the most and ask the people closest to them. And everyone close to me chose love. So I felt pretty honored and privileged that that's how people view me, is with love. So if you're interested in learning, though, more about love, please feel free to head over to Lucia at Night. I also do want to say we have a tremendous amount of tools on wellseekers.com. We are still adding to those lists. We do have a winter box. I have been waiting for this box to come out because we selected this box, and it's basically time for yourself or the ones you love. This box is coming out next week. I could not be more excited because it's essentially a shower night, activities to do, ways to help your body, ways to help your mind, and just a whole lot of pampering at home. And I've been dying for this box and to do it on a Friday or Saturday night. So if you want to find out more about that, that's on wellseekers.com too. From all of us here at WellSeekers, we want to thank you for such an incredible 2020, for you being part of our family. And I truly cannot say that enough. This is a family here at WellSeekers. We love you. We welcome you. We want to walk with you. We want to help you find your story of well. We want to help you rise. We want to help you come back. no matter where you are on your journey, it is never too late to change your story in any area of life. Unless there is no breath left in you, there is always time for change. And that's what this show is about. So we are so grateful to have you as part of our show. From everyone at Lucia at Night, we are so grateful that you're part of our family at Night as well. And we just couldn't be more honored and feel more privileged to bring you this show. So here's to great things in 2021. Here's to more light, more love, more peace, and finding your best story yet. Happy holidays, happy new year, and we will see you on the other side of 2020. We'll be back in 2021 with more WellSeekers.
How would you like to join the conversation? Email us anytime at hello@wellseekers.com.